I'm sure you have already heard this, but on February 6, 2020, YouTube media group TeamFourStar announced they were ceasing production on Dragon Ball Z Abridged. They cited the reasons for cancellation were burnout, the decline in quality after DBZ's Cell arc, the inability to parody the ninth movie BoJack Unbound, and not wanting to, quote-unquote, overstay its welcome. When I first heard the news, I was pretty sad that one of my favorite YouTube series would not be continuing. However, I do understand why they want to move on from Dragon Ball Z Abridged. In the source material, the Cell arc essentially wrapped up a lot of character storylines, such as that of Son Goku, Son Gohan, Trunks, and Krillin. The only character that would receive further development in the next arc was Goku's rival, Vegeta, and Gohan to some extent with his little arc with Videl. Additionally, the series was plagued with production problems, including frequent channel shutdowns and copyright strikes from both Toei Animation and Funimation. Ironically enough, some members of the latter's DBZ cast would have cameos in Abridged, such as Gohan's voice, Kyle Hebert. I commend them wanting to quit while they're ahead and move on to new projects, while also applying what they learned from making DBZ Abridged to make work they can be equally as proud of. So, good for you, TFS. However, in this video, I'm going to be talking about my personal history as a fan of this series, and give my opinion on the work as a whole, such as favorite moments, characters, etc. Without further ado, let's get the Dragon Ball rolling. I believe my story with DBZ Abridged begins when I was a humble sophomore in high school. In my animation classes, I had a friend that would frequently make references to a web series known as Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Prior to this, I have only heard of the series from the front page of the website That Guy with the Glasses, which is now known to this day as Channel Awesome. After my friend piqued my interest, I decided to give it a shot, and boy was I hooked after a certain exchange between protagonists Goku and Piccolo.
Hey Piccolo, mind if I ask you something?
What is it?
You're not human either, right?
Yeah?
And your dad spit you out as an egg, right?
What about it?
Are you a Yoshi?
That and possibly their take on minor character Mr. Popo.
Popo's about to teach you the pecking order. It goes you, the dirt, the worms inside of the dirt, Popo's stool, Kami, then Popo.
It was Are You a Yoshi that got me hooked, and it was Pecking Order that sealed the deal. I would continue to watch the series for years to come, eagerly awaiting the release of new episode after new episode. I was always intrigued to see how TeamFourStar not only satirized the heck out of Dragon Ball Z, but improved upon it as well. To this day, these guys are about as dedicated as Dragon Ball fans can get. Matter of fact, TFS also set out to make some scenes from DBZ more faithful to the manga and make their own edits to abridge the various time skips. As a result, they not only created a parody of DBZ, they essentially made their own version of the series as well, with its own continuity and interpretations of the characters. Everything was so tightly connected with many of its plot holes paved over. In some instances, we see younger versions of characters that were meant to be introduced later on, such as Videl during the start of the Cell games. In that same story arc, Goku's wife Chi-Chi sets the seeds for a pregnancy with Goten, a character that would rise to prominence in the now ill-fated Buu saga. Speaking of the characters, I must say these guys top those at Funimation. No offense to Sean Schemmel, Christopher Sabat, and the rest of the DBZ cast. I love the work you do to death, and Schemmel is one of my favorite voice actors of all time. However, TFS pours their heart and soul into their voice work and fleshes out many of the characters beyond what their creator Akira Toriyama intended. While we do see their external conflicts with the likes of the Saiyans, Frieza, and Cell, we also get some insight into their psychological state. As an example, I would like to use my favorite character, Gohan, in terms of character expansion. In the original series, we see Gohan's development from a timid crybaby to a child that saves the entire world. However, in Abridged, we see that and how being thrust into combat affects him both internally and externally. Being reluctantly thrown into a fight has a negative effect on him psychologically, which leads to moments where he snaps uncontrollably, such as this one.
Gohan, we may have a chance now, but you'll have to give it your all. Remember, he may look like your dad, but you can absolutely not hold back!
Had TFS decided to continue the series, I think it would have been interesting to have them create some scenes of Gohan in therapy. Maybe they might do that for the Dragon shorts, since we all know the poor kid needs it after all that he's been through throughout the series, am I right? While characters such as Gohan have been expanded upon, some have been reduced to one-dimensional exaggerations of their source material. Let's look at series protagonist Son Goku. In the source material, Goku isn't the brightest bulb in the drawer by any means. However, his abridged counterpart is a complete moron with the mentality of a 5-year-old, and he makes Homer Simpson look smarter by comparison. According to earlier episodes, he didn't even realize his wife was pregnant with his son, and he couldn't even pronounce the name of the hyperbolic time chamber and would instead call it
Hyperbola Mind Chamber, Hyperglycemic Crime Chamber, Hypebonics Rhyme Chamber. We have to wait for Vegeta and Trunks to come out of the hypertonic lion tamer.
That one was on purpose.
Could have been.
much to Mr. Popo's dismay. Speaking of Popo, he is by far my favorite character in the Abridged series. TFS essentially took this kind, benevolent genie and made him into absolute nightmare fuel. This version of Popo is sadistic, creepy, jaded, and does not mess around by any means. Unlike his source counterpart, this version is not afraid to dropkick you if you step out of line, such as when it came to Krillin and Vegeta. Even characters such as Shenron and Kami are weary of him, since he can be absolutely unpredictable. I wouldn't want to mess with this guy at all, and I certainly know better. I think Krillin sums it up best here.
First rule of Popo's training! Do not talk about Popo's training!
Krillin, why are you crying?
Second rule of Popo's training!
Overall, I think Dragon Ball Z Abridged is a fantastic love letter to the source material, not only satirizing some of its stranger elements, but improving upon them as well. TFS created what I believe is the defining version of the story and characters, being faithful to both the Japanese and Funimation dubs, while also making the roles their own. It is a show that is, quote-unquote, hilarious, and you will quote everything it says. Matter of fact, I am always quoting the show and will continue to do so for years to come. I am certainly going to miss it, but who knows? Maybe this isn't the end, and they might come back to do the Boo arc later on down the line, once things settle down. I honestly doubt it, but anything is possible. We all thought Star Wars was going to end at Return of the Jedi until The Force Awakens was released, and we certainly didn't expect Dragon Ball to continue after GT, but we ended up getting 2 movies, a brand new series, and the Boo arc of Kai. Maybe one day we might get a continuation, but until then, I think ending it with Gohan defeating Cell was the best course of action. I am looking forward to TFS's future projects, and I definitely plan to stick around and see what they cook up next. As always, I have a question for you. What are some of your favorite DBZ Abridged moments? Feel free to discuss in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for future updates. And considering we're on a bit of a Dragon Ball theme here, I think I'll let Goku close out this episode from one of my favorite clips from GT.
And now we end the story of the Dragon Balls, with the hope that the Earth will never again see the kind of darkness that brought it close to extinction so many times. But if that day comes, there is one who will step out of the shadows and fight in the name of all that is good and true.
Bye!